Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview covering the Game Changer scene. My latest guest at this time is going to be none other than Risorah. They are a pro Valorant player that competes within the Game Changer scene for the past few years now, specifically back in 2021 up until now. And besides being a competitor within the NA Game Changer scene, they also work their trade behind the scenes within esports events and covering other esports titles in addition to that. And of course, when someone does say the name Risorah, they are reminded of that time back in early 2023 when they were suspended by Riot for 9 months because of a video they published concerning the conversation about from one player, as they put it, resembling teabagging to SA being sexual assault. And in reaction to that whole conversation, they made a video that kind of chronicled the entire sequence of events from the moment that kind of thing started up until the moment it kind of spilled over to social media and everything else of the like. So we're going to be talking to them about that, in addition to their general lives, their pro Valorant career, and everything else that kind of relates to that aspect.
I've been competing in VCT for GC since 2021 specifically, all the way up to now. I mean, I've had my early roots as well competing back in 2020 with the tier 3 scene and the grassroots scene when the game first came out back during COVID. But yeah,
Like,
transitioned into another game in a different form of esports within virtual reality called Veil. But yeah, I've been doing pretty good the past few years, and I'm still doing good now.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, like the reason why, this whole thing kind of came about between you and I and this interview was just because of the fact that I sent out a tweet on Twitter, some time ago about whether anyone within the game changer scene, be it player, caster, anyone else of the like, would be interesting in having an interview about their life and stuff like that. But you were one of the people that kind of came forward and just hit me up by saying yes, I do want to do this, and yeah, I've always been wondering as to why exactly you wanted to, reach out to me and just having to do this interview. So why did you come to that decision?
I think there's like a lot of untold stories that need to be told. I mean, mine has already been told, and it's loud and clear as it was in 2022 with my infamous like situation. Uh, I mean, it's always a nice touch to just keep up with people in the scene. At the end of the day, too, right? It's like it's always good to see new faces, and I mean, it's always just to me at least importantly, it's just still having my name have some sort of relevancy. Even if I'm like moving forward from Valorant, like the impact I've had in a scene as well for the past 4 years almost is immense. And I mean, it's always a shocker for people, to still come across my name within not just Valorant but esports. So, I mean, just leaving like another like digital footprint, I guess I can say, just allows my story to be just heard more further from like others that take the opportunity to approach people and be like, hey, I mean, I have some time, and like grab a cup of coffee or whatever, and just talk to people for even like 45 minutes or so, or even longer for that.
Yeah, I understand that kind of sentiment completely, because I've always gone by this mantra or this motto when it comes to me doing this line of work and just doing feature interviews with players, be it big or small. With the quote, everyone has their own story and yours is no different, or it is different in that sense. And yeah, like you mentioned, of course, your controversies and the kind of ordeals you had to go through. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to talking about yourself, Risorah, is the ban in 2020, late 2022, and I think it was 9 months, I believe. You can correct me on that. And yeah, like you mentioned about how the kind of scene perceives you in a way because of those kinds of things. But how do you feel that the entire like GC scene perceives you as a player, as a person, with those things in mind? Do you feel they view you as like in a negative light, positive light, anything else of that nature?
I respect whatever views people have on how they perceive me on the internet or how they see me with my own social presence, which is a lot more quieter as of like recently. But I mean, it's mixed. It goes hand in hand. I mean, there's people that still, like they like me as a player. Some people have also like came up to me and they're like they look up to me as a player because of the despite everything that I've dealt with, like I still managed to persevere through like the beginning of this year, and then like at the end of the day, right? It's still it's like it's mixed. It's always a mix. But I mean, I take it both like I take it both as a way to improve myself as a person, and to be more self conscious about my surroundings and the space entirely.
Yeah, of course. And now I do want to just backtrack and just cover your your initial days, but basically the start of you wanting to pursue, your career in pro Valorant. Well, first off, why Valorant in the first place? You could have gone for any other game within the esports scene, but you decided to lay your hands and just pursue a career in this game in particular. So why Valorant?
So it's funny that Valorant became like the thing that attracted me the most, the things that I started playing, the amount of time that I've left and stuff. Funny enough, I never had a competitive background. I was like most people, where I played games casually. I got my start with playing video games back in 2004 when I first saw my uncle playing Halo 2, like the old days with Xbox Live. Just literally seeing him in a room with him and his friends on like just on like a CRTV or whatever, just playing like 4-player multiplayer back then. Uh, I think he's the reason why my career or me playing video games started entirely. I didn't get my competitive itch until TwitchCon 2018 when I got the opportunity to play in the Apex Legends Showdown. Like I got picked among the crowd. I was supposed to play in the Fortnite one originally because I did play Fortnite a little bit, but I never really like cemented a name or anything. I was just one of those people that just played the game for fun because I mean like all things everything has a trend, and so I followed that trend. And then going to TwitchCon, I mean Apex gave me that day, that moment. I still remember it in September 2018 or 2019, right before we entered lockdown. Uh, I got my like it fueled my competitive fire, and then from there, I mean, 2020, uh, I saw Valorant. I saw the announcement. I saw the just people mumbling and just the murmurings of it and stuff. And then I mean, got the Twitch drop and started playing the game. And then like everyone else that was starting, because the scene was all grassroots back then, and there wasn't really like orgs getting in and stuff. Besides, how Brax back then, before even Valorant came, got signed to T1 immediately for Valorant. Uh, Started playing in this thing called Knights Valorant League, which is where they grew all the the original tier 3 and tier 2 talent. To some of the names that you see now playing on in the franchise league, or still players that are playing also in challengers now or in collegiate. They all started from there, and I think the impact that the early days of Valorant has given me has kept that competitive fire intact for me. Like I said, I didn't start competitive. I mean, growing up, I didn't have a good computer. I didn't play Counter Strike at all. So I didn't come from Counter Strike. Funny enough, I came from or just playing this Lego blocky platform called Roblox. And I mean,
Oh,
you
Roblox,
know,
of course,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. From there, I saw Valorant and I immediately just ditched whatever I was doing on Roblox. I mean, I just played Roblox for fun. I did stuff there. I did graphics design a little bit, and I still do that now. But yeah, no, I was enticed by Valorant. I was enticed by the mechanics the game had, all the agents, every sort of aspect that the game had, and I just got gripped by it. And so I dedicated the next 4 years up to now just playing the game and trying to pursue a career and stuff.
Yeah, and what do you think made it possible, or what do you think made it happen for you to basically first off like Valorant and just want to just play the game incessantly? Was there one thing that kind of you felt identified, with you personally, or was there anything else that kind of made you want to just stick your hands on that game?
I think it was the tech that was involved with the game even now. I mean, the anti-cheat, the competitive integrity that the game had in comparison to other games, right? Because I mean, to be honest and quite frankly, like you haven't seen a game like Valorant back then where it got announced out of nowhere and you were hearing all of these things about like 128 tick being the standard. Uh, like I said, the anti-cheat. I mean, it's a level 0 kernel anti-cheat, but I mean it gets the job done to a degree to ensure that nobody and officials are cheating and stuff. Uh, just overall like the technology that goes behind the scenes with the game. I think it's a bit interesting how game development and how far it's been pushed. as of recent generation to how, you can have a game as stable as Valorant.
What do you there's been a considerable difference when it comes to looking at um the women's the female demographic slash marginalized gender demographic playing this game much more than the other titles. Yes, we have other games like Overwatch, but there's a clear difference when it comes to just having a huge amount of girls and marginalized genders playing this game compared to the rest. It might be a difficult question to answer, but since it's just one person trying to answer for an entire huge demographic, but why do you think made it happen for Valorant to be in that kind of position where it appeals to a much broader audience compared to the other titles?
I think, like you said too, I mean, there's gonna be other people that you're gonna interview, and like people that you have interviewed that have a different answer to this. For me, at least, I think it's just ooh, it's hard. It's kind of a hard question too, right? It's like, I think the colorfulness of the game, uh, to be honest, I mean, like the visuals are pretty much pleasing, and I think it's just more rather how, I guess, I might sound like a hypocrite for this, because I mean, everybody has their own controversies and stuff, going back to that added element of, anything in general in our real world. I think it's like the diversiveness of just the amount of people that work on the game, right? Like, not just, it's not just cis male, cis female. It's different genders working on Valorant collectively as a whole that make the game that we play today and what it was back then, 2020. I think I think too, it's just, there's a lot of, like I said, grassroots, and I mean just the community engagement that the game has with its community, like the little nods to like things from like our competitive scene, both GC and like the bigger league, just coming together and stuff as a whole. Like despite all like the things that happen and stuff, right? I think just Valorant and Riot has some magic that just brings people together. Like amidst everything that happens, like Valorant just manages to pull together like just different backgrounds, different communities, just everything, and just bring it together as one.
Yeah, and talk to me about your first experience playing the game, because of course you mentioned playing beta, as everyone, as it usually is by this point, with
Yeah.
the amount of people that I've been talking to throughout my time covering this game. But yeah, um, talk to me about like your first actual experience playing the game, and just trying to figure out the nooks and crannies of like the default agents that everyone obviously plays with at around the time of launch. But yeah.
Oh, that's such a long time, but I remember when I first started playing immediately, I feel like most people can akin to this. Like they would just immediately just play duelist off the bat. Like I would just immediately. I never played Jet as much. I won't lie. I kind of started playing as a Phoenix main.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember back then. I think Phoenix had like 3 flashes before. I can't remember. I can't wrap it around my head because it's like old Valorant. I mean, if I had time to go through my clips like I usually do back then, yeah, no, I used to play Valorant like it was Counter Strike. Like that's what
Mhm.
it immediately felt like. It felt like Counter Strike. It was just agents with different abilities, and that's what added the extra layer of depth and detail to the gameplay. That way, it's not like timeless. It's just constantly evolving, constantly just, you just needed to adapt every time that they dropped an update or whatever. But that's how it started for me. It was just playing duelist. I was really stubborn back then. I was really
Mhm.
really stubborn back then. So I would only restrict myself to playing duelist and ranked. Uh Immediately off the bat, like I said, like I was very competitive. Like eventually down the line, I just had to open up to playing other roles and stuff, which I do now, to be honest. And if I wanted to come back to competing, I would really open up to the idea of just playing other roles. I mean, I'm not a duelist player as I was back then, but that was like the go-to. Uh, yeah, just playing duelist, treating it like CS, and then as time came on, just adapted and just started to just pick up on other agents, and now I'm able to. I feel like I can say I'm confident in being able to play just other agents in general, just having that adaptability and like the versatility in comparison to like others. It just goes hand in hand, at least.
Yeah, you said that you were initially a Phoenix main, but yeah, looking through like your VLR page, you never played Phoenix at all. Why does that happen? Why did you not play the agent at all?
I feel like okay, I just never touched Phoenix in competitive play because I felt like I never had the opportunity to play it, right? Like I would be enticed to still play other agents that I play in my pool. I felt like if I had the time to play Phoenix, I would have done it like with like the recent like game changers or Radiant Academy, like GCA or Radiant, whatever it's called now, Radiant Academy. I
The
just
Radiant
don't play
Academy.
Phoenix because it just doesn't fit in any composition of any of the teams that I've played with. They've never once have wanted a Phoenix, so I just assumed that it wasn't safe to play Phoenix at all. I would just stick with like the main characters. But I would definitely play Phoenix if I had the opportunity to plug it out with like old friends or just old teammates.
I mean, we had Loud play the Phoenix, during VCT America's kickoff, and yeah, I mean, if there's a good way, if there's ever a good time to play the agent now, or if there's ever a good time to play the agent, now would be the time, and you could just say, "Oh, you say you guys don't want me to play as Phoenix, but you got Loud, freaking Quick playing the agent all day ad nauseum. Sure, I'm not Quick, but I am Risorah and I can do that shit. So maybe you could do shit like that. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, at
yeah.
the end of the day, right? I mean, any agent just works. It's just players just need to be willing to open up to it, and I think that's like an issue that plagues GC as a whole. I keep an eye on other agents. I watch the other agents play. I feel like there's just some teams or just some people that are constraining to like the default compositions or just normal compositions. I'm hoping this year that in 2024, right, with GC and just watching the bigger league and tier two and collegiate, right? Like I hope GC. I mean, GC usually takes most of their compositions from like the bigger teams or like orgs that are up there and stuff. But I want to see more teams in particular like just take advantage or just leverage agents, even agents that are like changed and stuff. I feel like there was like an interview where it was mentioned, right? Like I think teams should always, take a closer look into the kid of every agent because I don't know, you could probably cook something really well with them rather
hmm
than constricting to just, the basic comps.
hmm Yeah, and we're seeing that at the present day, regardless of level, especially in tier one and tier two and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. One interesting point that you brought up in an answer that you said a few minutes ago, you mentioned that you describe yourself as like a stubborn player. Do you feel you're a stubborn player even now at this point? And why did you feel you started off as a stubborn player in the first place?
I think I was very stubborn before, and I still think I'm a little bit now in the sense that back then I didn't really I goofed around a lot, and I feel like sometimes I have moments where I goof a bit, so that's where the stubbornness or the laziness as well I think kicks in. And to be honest, if I was never stubborn back then, I feel like the opportunities that I would have thrown myself in back then would have been I don't know, they would be better now. I feel like looking back on my 4 years of competing, right, on my 4 year tenure, there's a lot of things that I wish I would have done differently. Just a lot of like there's a good amount of regret, a lot of like things that I just wish were different. And so I feel like looking at it now, right, it's like I still look back on those moments and think that that was who I was before, and that in comparison to now, it's just brick by brick for the pieces of a wall, right? Like it shaped me into who I am now, and it's still going to shape me into who I am moving forward, away from like this game or even like coming back into this game.
What do you feel is the biggest regret that you feel you've had? Well, regret, I would say, I think that's I think you can answer that, with the. All right, let me put it to you this way then. Besides the ban, because of course that's going to be your number one answer when it comes to this question that I'm going to ask. What do you feel is the biggest regret you feel like when it comes to your career in GC?
Honestly, I think it's like the simplest answer too that you could put it in, right? I think that the moment I pressed that the send button on Twitter to post the galorants experience, like everything changed.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It changed like significant. It changed in my life significantly for the past 3 years. The past 2 years, and even now, right? Like that. I think a lot of people just consider it as like it was honestly like it proved a lot of things, right? It proved that we were in a generation. I'm gonna speak what I feel like in this sort of sense, right? I
No,
feel
go
like
ahead.
it's opened up a lot, and that it kind of proved that we were in a that our current generation is extremely soft. There's a lot of things that people kind of are taking for granted, I guess, in a sense, and that people are forgetting, or I guess some people have lost touch with reality and cannot compare what is basic banter to, like just downright toxicity. Because I mean, everybody has those moments, right? And
Mm,
me hitting the send or the tweet button in general during that time, just like radiated like a lot of energy from like not just our scene, right? But like everybody together in the esports industry, right? Like it was like the biggest talk of 2022. Like it wasn't even from our scene. It started, I think, with Apex, right? Where like some guy got banned because they teabagged their own teammate, and then it just went around, and then my and then it came to our scene where people were getting really upset that you couldn't teabag, and then I mean, so the grim day came where somebody thought it would be right to compare teabag an in-game gesture to something that is very bad, that is like done in society. And I won't
mm,
say that word, but I mean, you get what I'm getting with this. If
mm,
people have seen that incident or recall that incident, right? I mean, I look at it a lot, and I still look at it to this day. Like I had a lot of opportunities grow, and I mean, I feel like 2022 as well was my peak as a player. I peaked hard. I would have actually like done some insane stuff if I didn't post that tweet or that video or said what I had to say that faithful day. But I mean, I did it for the right reason. I still think it's just my biggest regret because I would have, I wouldn't have all this thing of I wouldn't have it all over my name. It wouldn't be plastered. Because I mean, that's what people immediately think when they realize who I am or just see the name Risorah. Like they immediately just search it up, and it's like it's an immediate like background check for them. Like they get
mhm,
curious about it, and so it's still my biggest regret.
mhm. Yeah, of course, and I mean, I'll just be honest. If it wasn't for that kind of thing, the whole fiasco, because that's kind of what it was, fiasco, just from the moment, that kind of argument about teabagging and just comparing that to, SA fiasco,
Yeah,
and then the whole ruling and stuff fiasco, and then the whole arguments, all of that stuff fiasco. But still, I feel, and I think the same can be said about everyone else, or a majority of the scene, that people wouldn't really know about you had it not been for that kind of thing. Of course, yes, it then led to your ban and then your subsequent suspension from competing at a time in which you felt you were at your best. Going into the actual start of this entire thing that happened, now that we're roughly like almost 2 years since, that kind of thing happened, do you feel that kind of people look at you as a person that's kind of reform, or do you feel people still look at you as, hey, this is Risora, and they still are the same kind of person that kind of like clown on an individual? How do you feel you look back at that kind of experience? Roughly 2 years on.
I still look at it. I still look back on it day by day, right? I mean, people like to say a lot of things on the internet, some things that they may or may not heard, and I mean, you just got to take it with a grain of salt, like it's a lot of there's a lot of I won't lie, there's a lot of emotional distress whenever my name gets brought up or whenever I see my name on the internet, right? Because nowadays it's like I mean, it's created like there, there's a lot of I'm glad I got thrown into the limelight. I'm not glad that people still to this day think that drama is my thing, to which it hasn't, and it has not been in the past 2 years. Sure, I get inklings where I see or hear things, but do I go about posting or having an opinion? I kind of just don't anymore. Like my opinions are just usually kept in my brain or I keep it like stored or locked up, right? Because I mean, it's not. It's like that's how the it's how the internet operates now, or it's how the scene operates. To be honest, I feel like 80% or at least 90%, right, of the scene. There's a lot of just unspoken, a lot of gross, mean, terrible things that are just never like until you have someone to just bring it all down, right? Such as that GC drama account, which to be honest, and I will say this for the record, that is not me, for God's sake. Um,
Are you talking about the account that says like 0 days since like the last,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
since the
yeah,
last
yeah.
GC drama incident or something like that?
Yeah. So I want to keep it on the record on this interview that that is not me. I have been reached out by Radiant. That is not me. If it was me, I would have came out clean and simply would have just did my own little like gimmick and stuff. Instead, it was me. But that is not me. It's just yeah. No, 90% of the scene is just drama. It's just all and usually just unheard of. It's just words and mischief, but just what people say. And I like I said, you just got to take. I just take it day by day, right? If there's something that's just mentioned of me in any sense, like immediately my go-to is just to approach the person and be like, "Hey, this isn't true. You gotta first and foremost, it's people need to stop believing what other people say because I feel like as we go into 2024 or we go into this year, right, or even going back into 2023, like it's just there's just so many things that people like to say about other people, and that's like the one thing to take of for me at least just 2 years later from everything that's happened that you just gotta take everything day by day and that people are gonna always still say a lot of like mean, rude, gross things and just a lot of lies and just rumors. And at the end of the day, it's like people are not going to know who you are unless they get to talk to you. And I mean, that's how it has been for me meeting like new people in the scene as time has gone on with like the start of this year and the start of this circuit. Like I've come and go and I've met people and like people have flat out told me they're like, you're not as bad as people say you are. You're normal. You're chill. You don't throw yourself into anything. And I'm glad that people see me as that. And if people still see me as like a clown on the internet, I don't blame them one bit. I mean, I get really funny sometimes with like everything that I see online. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day I'll put up a video and it'll just be some Rick roll at the end of it.
You actually did do that one time. I do not forget. You know, you did post a video of that on Twitter, and you were trying to like make it sound like, oh, you're gonna do it again. You're gonna make another another controversy. But yeah, you just said like, no, I'm doing a Rickroll. I do remember
Yeah.
that. I do remember that though. Um, of I do understand, the fact that we're talking about this, and it's a good way to just kind of revisit this whole incident because, of course, it concerns your career and your life and your presence within the GC scene. But I feel, if it's okay with you, I want to go over the exact timeline as to exactly how this happened from your point of view. For those of you, for the viewers and slash listeners that aren't really familiar with what exactly we're talking about in the first place. And okay, so walk me through the start of this whole thing, and which then led to you posting the Galorant experience video, that infamous video that then led to you being banned by Riot for around 9 months, from September up until March of last year. So, if you can.
I'll try to do it as quick as I can and to where it's not like extended because in the Moist Critical interview I gave like a more version, a bit more detailed. So July, I think, right? Or June? I remember one night there was a player in the Valorant server who kind of pretty much they were just making a lot of, I guess, outlandish, nonsensical comments, and then drew the line in comparison of teabagging to something that is very dangerous in the real world. And so people kind of got a little bit upset about it. And I didn't hear about that actually, funny enough, until the night that I saw them in a very specific channel complaining about, getting beaten by players that are better than them, to which I suggested that they should five-stack, and to which their response was, "You don't need to give me advice," and to which I responded is that they need to stop mini modding like me because it's an open channel, right? And that I have every sort of right to like comment if I wanted to. Eventually, like, I kind of got really upset. I kind of threw a hissy fit and proceeded to team up with Don Mower and some other people. Shout out to the old Catgirl Cartel group that actually made the video possible. Um, Credit where it's due, especially. That's where the idea of the video is made. And I mean, during back then, there was just a lot of drama in GC during, I think, GC Series 2, right? Yeah. Or one, if someone can correct me or you're able to correct me. Yeah, a lot of drama in GC plus that. It blew. I mean, I made a video about it, and I mean, people were already getting attention of it, and I mean, that faithful day that video is made, and I mean, the better way to describe it is that before I had hit the tweet button, I just said two words. I said "wild out," and then I posted the tweet. And then later did I know that it would just hit the esports category, and it sent waves. It just
Mm-hmm.
did. It did what it did, and like it just radiated everywhere. Not just in our scene, but it just went. It just went all over. Like everybody just was just aware of it. Just
Yeah.
everybody got to experience and get a taste of how much drama there was back in GC.
Yeah,
To
like
be honest, yeah,
at that point, of course, we already had our big fair share of GC drama, as it usually is the case at this point. Even
yeah,
now, we're still having of drama with whichever person is involved,
yeah.
But yeah, like that attention, I remember also reporting it also like, well, not specifically when you posted the video, right then and there during the summer of 2022, but more so, the actual competitive ruling slash ban for you and more because those you guys were the ones heavily implicated for that kind of thing. But yeah, like it really did make waves and it really did cross beyond just the game changer scene and just for the fact that it kind of riled up various people from all walks of life in various games and yeah it was pretty wild uh just to see the whole reaction to your video and the tweets and the kind of screenshots that you cited within those or you used for the video and yeah when you were making the video and when you were starting to edit it and piece it all together what was going through your mind when during that process.
To me, at least, it was just supposed to be a funny video. It was supposed to recap. A lot of people were basically were right about that assumption. It was just to recap, and I guess also clown the person because I mean you cannot make that comparison whatsoever to comparing that to like the gesture of just pressing your crouch key and just I don't know, just comparing it to something that's awfully dangerous. You just can't make that comparison. In my brain and the thought process and the workflow of the video was just solely just to recap on what was going on in Game Changers, and it was to clown the person. It was never meant to like, it was never meant to like put down the scene. But I understand the negativity that came with making the video. At the end of the day, for me, going through my brain, it was just I'm gonna have fun editing this. At least people are gonna know what's going on in this scene because nobody really like looks into it and realizes that there's a lot of just dumb, gross things that happen behind the scenes in esports, and it's a good example that someone I was willing. I said it before and I'll say it again. It can be my biggest regret, but I was willing to stand up for what was right when I saw that comparison, and I was willing to take the blow for it.
Mhm. Kind of like a martyr, right? It's kind of like how you describe it. Taking one for the team. Just getting banned, but it's gotta. You did it to prove a point that this kind of statements that people make when it comes to comparing teabagging to SA. SA shouldn't be done so flippantly.
Yeah, and I mean, Yeah, no, I mean the impact that it's made. I mean the fact that it even changed the rules and that people were now allowed to do that. I mean, I think that was a good thing too. Like it's a part of esports. It's in our blood to like banter will always be banter, trash talk will always be trash talk. It's what fuel to me. It's what fuel rivalries. I mean, it's that extra salt, that extra spice that you need to have personalities, players, and just like scenes in general. Like you don't want to watch something and see it as like dull and stale. You want to have some sort of added liveliness to it. And I think good examples of personalities in esports too is like I don't know what Boaster and like Zelsis like. By the way, buy the Send bundle because I'm wearing the Send. I'm wearing the Send T-shirt as well as we speak.
I don't support
First,
Sentinels. Okay, I don't support Sentinels. Okay, this is Risorah saying it. Okay, I'm just an interviewer. Okay. All right. You were saying.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you just need to have personality. I think that's how esports works. If there's personality in a game, you're going to get driven by it. You're gonna get focused on it. And I mean, Valorant players manage to do that. And I mean, the way that people play manage to do that. I mean, everything in general, and just not just Valorant, but just gaming in general. Like if you have personality, people are gonna look to you and stuff. I mean, like I said too, going back to the impact that I had, like I'm surprised that it just grew and blew up. Like I didn't expect Moist Critical to get a hold of it, and I don't think Don Mower was expecting that too. But I mean, it just made our names go up there, and I mean, even looking back on it, I'm still the same person 2 years later. I mean, I still do my own thing. I'm still as open as I am with people.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, talking to Moist Critical, and I actually, listened to the interview that you did with him around that time, in which the it was at its peak, news wise and stuff like that. And yeah, it really does drive home exactly how big it was. And I also saw that you were interviewed by Jake Lucky, I believe, and also
Oh
Hunter as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
I still have the. I know that the VOD's not up, but I still have the original recording for that. I have that recorded as well as from my side when Voice Critical called. I never ended up uploading those because to me as well, I didn't really care about the notor. I didn't care about the cloud at all because I know that people really wanted me to become a content creator from that, and to me it was like it wasn't my thing. And I knew people would have hated me if I just milked it into the ground. So I kind of just stayed as a competitor because it's in my blood to just compete. I wanted to keep competing. That was the goal even after all of it. I wanted to keep playing and that's what I did going into 2023 as much as I can. And even on my unban, I did that and almost got what I wanted. I mean, I failed to manage to qualify to main event 2 year for the for recently and I mean last year, but I mean at the end of the day that was the goal. Like I got my name out there and I was like F it, I'm going to keep competing. I didn't care about anything else but I wanted to compete and prove my point that something that something that Riot took from me for a year isn't going to stop me from what I wanted to do. And I managed to almost prove just that.
Hmm. And yeah, as a result, in subsequent times, with the video, the Galorants experience video, that then led to Riot Games banning you and also Dawn for, no, for I believe for them it was around 3 months for Dawn, right?
I think so. Yeah. So Dawn got 3 months. I got heralded as like the ringleader, I guess. That's how I'm seeing it, at least. I got heralded as the ringleader, so I got a more lengthier time, and then yeah, no, I got a harsher punishment, and people even I don't know what is it with people, but people kind of started drawing comparisons to my lengthy ban to Sinatra's situation, to which I kind of also do want to agree that or make a point that those two things are are also incomparable. What Sinatra did and I did are different, and you can't compare those two to each other.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. There were just mild talks of people comparing it my ban to Sinatra's because they believe that I got banned longer for something sillier whereas Sinatra got banned for something else. That is also I guess some people are dubbing as silly, but I do want to make a point that you can't compare those because Sinatra's whole situation is still Sinatra's situation, without a doubt, is the most. It's two-sided, right? So you can't make an opinion. You can't make any opinions or like, you can't make a proper opinion without looking at those two sides of the coin. So in that sort of sense, you can't. I don't like the fact that people have compared my situation to his, because mine is pretty evidently obvious why I got banned. His is all a mixture of different, things and timelines and stuff. So you can't. I never understood why people made that comparison.
And also drives into the point that the fact that it was just basically a video, right? Because like it was just talking about teabagging and just like the kind of um the obscenity of just having to kind of agree with that kind of argument, which is teabagging, comparing that to SA. It's kind of asinine to kind of um, agree with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And due to the fact that also you got 9 months for just essentially a video, and that kind of just brings up questions as to why so severe.
Mm. I think at the end of the day, Riot just wanted to make an example. I think my incident is like, I guess, the right time for them to make an example of a player, because not there's not much you hear about GC other than that it's a place for marginalized gender and female players, right? But they don't know, but people don't know what happens like inside the scene. So me coming out and being the larger, like, just holding I guess in a picture sense, me just coming out of nowhere and grabbing a mega speaker or whatever and just blabbering out or everything that I've heard about GC and just stuff that goes in. I guess it was the right time to make an example of a player of what happens when you cross a specific line, or what happened. I don't know if it caught it. My mic caught it. What happens when you cross a very specific line in esports?
Hmm. Hmm. And back during the moist critical interview, you mentioned about how um at the time of the ban you weren't really notified at all by Riot. Yes, you guys had conversations with Riot uh leading up to the ban, but when it happened, when the ban was enforced, you didn't really receive any heads up, right?
Yeah, no, there was no. We were both interviewed, and I remember the amount how long it was. It was 44 minutes and 25 seconds, and it's funny how I specified that time. I think people that I've talked to in the scene might know why, which I won't go into. But yeah, no, we were given our talks, we were investigated, and then we were told at the end, we'll let you know in 2 weeks. And I'm like, cool, sure. I woke up in the morning, and I said this to you in several interviews. I woke up to grab my Shroud coffee just to get notifications of my phone, and of just me being told, "Yeah, you're done for" and stuff, or like, "RIP, you're not playing for the next 9 months." And I'm like, "Gee, I wonder why." And I look on my phone, and I just see the notification of Riot dropping the ruling. Uh, and pretty much, yeah, that's where it all blew up even for, or that is where everything happened, where the most critical interview happened, where everything just stemmed from my name as a player and as like some sort of dubbed by Sarah Frags when I met her at Astro Clash in 2022 as the infamous Twitter person. Like that ruling just sent more shockwaves all over the scene, and not our scene, but also the entirety of esports. Just that one ruling really like stirred it all up like hard.
I think started up again also just bringing back all of the things that happened, that kind of set it off in the first place, like as in I say, for example, the person that made this video about teabagging got banned for 9 months. What the fuck? That kind of
Yeah.
reaction as well. Did you feel that was kind of much harder or much more higher volume compared to like the first go around in which this whole thing was happening in the first place?
It spoke higher volumes without a doubt. I mean, everybody just knew. I mean, they heard teabagging in 9 months, and it just that alone just really made people question how what was Riot thinking doing it, and two, why are people soft on the internet, right? Because I mean, back then, no one really gave a flying like crap about what you said or what you did, unlike now on the internet.
Hmm. Why do you feel this generation has gone soft? You know, because you said that this generation, this new generation, this current generation of players, casual players, professional players. I might be putting words into your mouth, so you can correct me on that. But why do you feel this generation is soft in your eyes?
I think people are soft because I I guess it's a mixture of how the current generation is and how some people are back then. Just people that now from back then really, yeah, like people like me, right? Like in my eyes, I think people are soft because of how much media they've like put into their, I guess, brain, and it's led, I guess, to some sort of brain rot or like brain dead, like like just a lot of it's like media, right? It's like it's big now. It's not as much as it was back then, where it was more simpler. And with how big media is, it's like you have even the younger kids, right? Like just they're figuring out things too quickly and they're just making immediate, like they're jumping to conclusions too quick. That's how I see it. And also like the way that they're seeing things of how things were done back then, right? Like, old COD lobbies, like people, saying this and that, all that bad foul language and stuff back then, right? Like people just are, jumping to conclusions and are just, saying that it's just downright, like like it's gross and stuff. And yeah, people of the older generation are like, you're just soft. You're just taking it too seriously. It's just a mixture of just different opinions, and so it divides the community into, you can categorize people in different ways. And that's how I see our city has gone to, and how Valorant has slowly like devolved into. Like back then, it was just people wanted to grind. It was grassroots, and now it's just all this nonsense, in my opinion, at least, with everything that that you wake up and see on Twitter, or you wake up and you hear from your friend or his or her friend and stuff.
I feel that there's a social aspect behind this kind of change in like sentiment, or sentiment, or I don't know if that's the right word to say it, just because of the fact that with Valorant, I feel the grassroots kind of aspect uh, uh in trying to cultivate a seed is much more online. It's become much more online compared to like, let's say, Counter-Strike, which was built on like, let's say, grassroots land, lower tier lands where people can
Hmm.
get into events and just trying to build teams, build camaraderie, fucking trash talk each other, even during events, be it online, but more
Yeah.
so offline. That was kind of where the onus of the development aspect for the CS competitive scene was based on. But for Valorant, even today, we've been seeing a lot more online events, and this is a kind of um conversation that was actually brought up at the start of this year when it comes to like, just saying like, oh, why isn't Valorant the same as CS, when it comes to having a grassroots scene, because like
Yeah.
in Valorant, it was launched during COVID, and in COVID, you basically were stuck in your house, just playing whatever it is that you had to
Yeah.
play either on PC or console or within the house. And my point is that in playing Valorant PC games in this kind of new climate post COVID, in which is much more online oriented, it kind of um created a sort of shift in just how people compose themselves and just in front of, let's say, either online or even in person. That's kind of how I see just sort of the whole transition towards being more online compared to how I was in the past, with this new generation compared to back then. Because you and I feel we kind of grew up in the same kind of generation. I was born in '96. Maybe you're somewhere close to that. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, like I grew up in 2000. It was more grounded back then. It wasn't completely online. if you wanted to be completely online back then, it was just Xbox Live Party, Skype, Xfire. If you know Xfire, I give bonus points to anybody that remembers that platform. TeamSpeak, which people still use, and I mean we still use it today for like, because TeamSpeak without a doubt is like the greatest thing I can think that the internet's had, or before Discord or Skype for that matter. I mean Bumble, Ventrilo, like that's how grounded it was back then. It wasn't social media grounded, whereas nowadays it's like you have more communication. People are now more frequent on Twitter. You have TikTok. You have it was more different back then. Without a doubt, it was more. It wasn't the way that we compared grounded. Me and you, or anyone that comes from like 2000s or like your time. Grounded was what I had mentioned, and now grounded nowadays is like Twitter and stuff and Discord and stuff. It was way more different back then. It's not at the online presence or having an or being on more online is more different now than what it was back then. And it wasn't
Yeah.
sophisticated. It wasn't sophisticated either back then.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just a matter of just adaptation because I feel for the old heads we kind of need to adapt. Why am I saying we? I'm like that's like I'm saying I'm a boomer. That's not how it is.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
get that call too. I get told that I'm a boomer as well. When I turned 20, like I would just get called a boomer by like all the younger people in Valorant, and it's
that's
just crazy
wild.
to think about. Yeah, no, it's just crazy to think about. I remember me and Clamran. To anyone who knows who Clamran is back then, like that Clamran would always call me a boomer back then, like in 2020. Like it was interesting to hear because I wasn't even like 30 or anything, and it was just funny to just hear that.
Yeah, it's just wild, and I think it's just the fact that I'm just trying or maybe failing to keep up with Zoomerling that I kind of just feel like a boomer
Hmm.
nowadays. But yeah, kind of sort of falling off of the main point of the conversation. But yeah, getting back to that, um, rewinding or more so like just repeating the same kind of question that I asked earlier on in the conversation regarding the ban, all that stuff and how you look back on it. Um, do you feel you would have done something differently, you know, in a different timeline had you faced this issue um, in a similar sense or maybe verbatim? You know, would you have done something differently when it comes to tackling this whole thing?
I don't think I would have done it any more differently. I mean, you only live one life, in my opinion. I'm glad that I'd made a cultural impact in esports, and I mean, I kind of prove a point that sometimes we're just getting too soft in society, and I mean, there has to be some sort of liveliness and like added spice in our scene or in the industry. We can't be dull. If it's dull, it's not gonna. If it's dull, it's if we're doing things dull and if everything around us is dull and stale, it's not fun. There needs to be a fun aspect to like doing things.
And I guess you have no regrets, right? You know, basically, right?
Yeah, just half and half. Honestly, it's just a mix and mix. At the end of the day, that's how I see it.
And I believe I already asked this question before at the start of this conversation, or roughly around the time we started diving into this topic. But yeah, like, does it like kind of bother you that basically this whole thing would basically be essentially what you'll be known for, you know, for the present and maybe also the future?
It bothers me to a degree, but at the same time, it's cool with me. Like you got to just deal with it. I mean, it's there forever. It's a part of history. It's a part of Valorant esports history. Like I'm surprised that to this day, uh, even last year, like I would just get approached or I would get asked if I was that person. I mean, I've had it happen here in San Diego at my place, right? Like whenever I walk around, or when I went to Micro Center last year in November, December, like I had someone tap my shoulder and like, "Aren't you Risorah?" And I'm like, "How do you know what I look like?" And they're like, "Because your voice and your hair." Like, oh, well, that makes sense. And oh, didn't you do that thing back then? I'm like, yeah. It's just crazy to think about how much impact you can have on a scene, and from like the smallest incident, big or small, as how some people put it.
Yeah, of course. And now more so diving into, post the ruling and stuff like that. And how were you able to bounce back from having to just sit around, wait for the ban to expire or to finish up? You know, how difficult was it for you to just try to figure out how you could like stay in tip top shape, if that's the appropriate way to describe it, and just having to just basically continue competing, with kind of a with no future, for temporarily speaking.
I mean, I just kept around. I just stayed in the scene. I did. I apologize for that. Um, I just stayed around. I just kept competing. I just competed wherever I see fit. I mean, I got hit up by like a couple friends. One of which I don't keep in contact because they did some really heinous stuff last year. Back in February last year at the Vegas LAN. I kept playing in other tournaments. I went into a couple LANs. I got second place at the NSG Fullerton LAN in July. Around the same time, I got my ban, which is pretty cool. I went to the SGGP Oceanside LAN as well. Got first place in that in the co-ed tournament, and I think it was like I think as well that was like one of the best performances I had put on LAN or overall, or one of my best performances on LAN and overall a part of my time competing. Um, I just kept I just stayed around with the scene. I went to events, just met up with people. People just knew who I was, and I mean, I think the best part and the best aspect of going to places, right, is just meeting people, just have being able to just one on one or just sit together eye to eye and just have that human interaction because I didn't want to disappear. I didn't want to fade. I just wanted to still be around and like get to meet more people. I took it as I love instead of leveraging it to make content or just milking it for clout, I just leveraged it to just try to make friends and I did just that for the next 2 years. And I mean, I still played and then when my band came, I went ahead and tried to go back into competing, to which like I said, I almost qualified for main event, but not managed to. But I mean, I proved the point that even a year or 2 years later, like it's not going to stop me as a person from doing what I wanted to do.
And yeah, like it's something that any person would have trouble dealing with, trying to overcome that kind of thing, be it good or bad, and just being the center of attention, and having to just stay focused, and try to cultivate or continue a career from that point on. And yeah, like you mentioned also that the fact that you kind of weren't able to return to your peak level, during 2022 up until you got banned, and just trying to reach that similar ceiling post ban. Why do you think that that's the case for you? Does that kind of worry you, that you feel you kind of like haven't been able to return to that top individual form for you, or not, or where do you stand in that kind of aspect?
I feel like if I had kept going, if the scene if the scene wasn't as rocky as it was, and people would do keep people long term, I feel like I would have gotten and peaked higher than what I had peaked back in 2022. And I feel like with Open Quad 2 being the last time I managed to get an almost close chance at playing main event, I feel like I've peaked over what I peaked back in 2022. Like both being almost able to make Open Qual kind of just was, I guess, to me at least, a better way of peaking further because I know that I can make it to there. It's just more so I just wish I had more time and I wish the scene had more opportunities and I just wish, there were more that people wouldn't swap people out after like one result of just playing in one like series and stuff.
Hmm. And mm, looking into your time in GC, what do you feel was like your favorite moment, uh, um, in competing in GC, and just having to 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 cover the highs for you individually speaking? What do you feel is like up there as like one of your favorite moments?
I think, well, for one, of course, Open Qual 2 recently, because I got to play with Ariana Anarchist. Uh I remember always seeing her compete in the early days, with Nothing to Lose and of course getting onto TSM and Exodus stuff. I look up to Ariana as a player. I mean, I feel like the criticism that she's given me back then when I had the chance to trial for YFP and the ability to play with her now and stuff, and that one night we water review, I'm forever grateful to have gotten the chance to play with her. I look up to her as a player. I'm glad that she's still competing in CS2. I'm still glad that she's pursuing her ability to compete. I'm very grateful because I don't know, like people like her, like they have that drive, they have that passion, no matter whatever they're dealing with or whatever. Like amidst everything that they deal with, like they still choose to compete because I mean it's their life, it's in their blood, it's in their D&D to do so. And I mean, I've told her so many times that I like even if we didn't make main event, I am without a doubt like glad to have the opportunity to compete with her like one last time.
Where do you feel you stand within the general consciousness of GC, of the GC scene?
I mean, for now at least, uh, it's kind of hard to describe. It's just I'm just here. I'm still around. People ever want to talk, or if people want to ever, I guess, if they ever need someone to fill for them, I'm just here. I mean, I still actively play the game because I mean, I don't know. Something still causes me to linger playing Valorant. I just don't know why. Right now, it's not competing at least, but I mean, I guess I don't want to. I don't want to like, you know, like leave what I've left on the scene, and I still want to be able to play. I still want to, I guess, eventually down the line return to competing, but not in GC. Hopefully, probably in co-ed. I just need to give myself more time. There's a time and a place for everything, and while right now isn't that time, I mean, eventually, like the dust will settle, and I mean, I'll come back and do what I need to do, and I mean, eventually, like finally, after like God knows how long I have to put more blood, sweat, and tears into, like I'll be able to achieve what I've been waiting for like for like 2 years or 3 years, wherever long and necessary it has to be. But for now, at least, I'm just still here. I'm just chilling. Just I'm still around. Like I'm always I'm always looking forward for what's next.
I don't think we took cover this topic, but why exactly did you decide to compete in Game Changers in the first place? Because you could have just competed like regular tier two, VCT, co-ed teams, male teams or something like that. But why do you feel you wanted to compete in GC?
I feel like I still don't know what my gender is to this day, even though I came out as non-binary in 2021. I still remember that day. I mean, honestly, it's just everything has a question, and I mean, there's always going to be an answer. But for me, at least right now, when I made that fate to change to GC, I kind of wanted to just, I don't know, make a name for myself in GC and then transition it as well over to the bigger scene. I feel like that should be the goal for everybody in GC. Like if they compete, it's just compete and then transition it over to the bigger scene. I feel like because I mean GC makes that pipeline possible. I mean it shows with like Shopify and what complexities the roster had and like all these other rosters that had existed back then, like Dart monkeys and stuff. Like I feel like that's the goal for everybody. If you start in GC, you want to make it up there with everyone else, up there with Shopify, up there with everyone. I feel like, and that's what the goal always should be for people. It shouldn't know it. It should never be for the money. It should never be for it should never be for the clout. It should always be for like giving yourself the opportunities to like grow as a player and to just break break that barrier because that's what GC stands and should be for.
When it comes to looking at the GC scene, as someone that's been covering GC, myself, not as much as I would have liked, but still, um, there's been even so, there's been plenty of instances where we've seen, you know, the scene not being as inclusive and just kind of being hostile to, let's say, non-cis women. And when I say non-cis women, I
Hmm.
mean transgender women, and that kind of thing. It's been a topic that I talked about with plenty of other interviewees that I've talked to, in the past. And I want to know from your perspective, how do you view this kind of environment where, um, there's not much, I would say, um, inclusivity when it comes to, having to accept non-binary people such as yourself and your peers and the like. How do you view that kind of environment for you from your perspective?
I think that the environments, every environment that you go into, there's always gonna be people that have like second thoughts and second doubts. I think, in my opinion, at least, you just gotta battle through it and persevere through it. I mean, it's gonna be everywhere, right? Like, everybody is gonna just have their own opinions from. Everybody's gonna formulate opinions from other people. People are gonna think that you're lying. People are gonna think that you're faking it. I mean, if it's who you are and and you stick to that and you just ignore all the noise and all of the polluted like air of just people saying otherwise, I mean, people will eventually like have a change of heart. I don't think I had any issue when I was non-binary first beforehand, and then coming out as trans eventually, and then going back to being non-binary because, like I said, I'm in a confusing point in time where I still need to figure out what I want to identify as. I mean, just can't let it get to you. I feel like it sucks that, without a doubt, it sucks that people don't like the inclusivity of things. I'm sorry if I said the word wrong. And I hope that, people, with how people are nowadays, people just need to be more reasonable. People need to like open up a little bit and just, there needs to be more compassion and be more considerate of how people are, or how how they want to be or look as online.
If you want to share that, then I understand. Why did you decide to become non-binary in the first place? Because you mentioned about having difficulty trying to decide exactly who you are, gender-wise. So if you can share like exactly why you feel there's such a difficulty for you in trying to reach a clear decision in trying to um identify yourself.
I just honestly don't know. I don't know. It's just so weird, right? It's like I feel like anyone can agree. Like, there's a day where you sometimes, look in the mirror, or just you dwell on your thoughts and you're like, what if you're not who you think you are? And I mean, that came across my mind like early 2020. It's just, people are never going to be understanding of how you are as a person, right? And I mean, for me at least, that day, that fateful morning, I just thought about it, and I just flat out told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I don't know what I want to identify as. I just want you to know that I'm non-binary. Like, I can't think what I am. I don't think I'm a guy. I don't think I'm a girl, right? And then eventually, throughout 2021, 2020, towards the end of 2021 and going to like, early 2024, it's like, all right, I think I'm trans. And now I'm back in this phase where I'm like, what if I'm not? It's just a confusing part of my life. I feel like it's a confusing part of anyone's life. You can't really tell if a person's, you can't tell what the person thinks in their brain, if, like, there's just a lot of things, I guess a lot of chemicals in the brain, or chemistry or whatever, that just leads to them saying, like, maybe I'm not who I thought I was, or I'm not who I think I am. And so they put themselves in that position to just be curious a little bit. And I mean, that's how I am right now. I'm just still trying to figure out my way. And I mean, eventually I'll just come to a point where I'll figure out what I want to identify as. I'm non-binary now. I could be, you know, be like, it's just really, you just gotta, it's just hard. It's confusing. There's no concrete answer, in my opinion.
What do you think? when do you think this kind of, I don't want to say doubt, but like sort of um uncertainty about yourself began? When did that whole thing start for you?
Started during COVID, at least. I mean, I'm not gonna lie too. I feel like I was uncertain as well whether or not we were going to go back to how life was before lockdown. So I feel like even in an alternative timeline, I would have had I would have I was going to enter a phase where I was going to question, like I was going to question my identity as a person. Like everybody's going to do that. Can't just like you can't let it sit in your head and then let it like boil up and then you have like some sort of like outburst or something or whatever. You're gonna it's like one of those deep thoughts where you just sit there and you just think about it for a bit before you come with like a concrete answer.
And yeah, like I mean, it's something that I can't really relate because I don't really encounter that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
it's something I do respect, for anyone else that do have to go through this kind of difficulty to trying to find themselves and just trying to find who they actually are. And yeah, all love for me for those trying to figure out exactly who they are. And yeah, it's I feel it's kind of something that affects those that are trying to make this kind of decision greatly to profound effect. Because I feel it's exhausting. It kind of it could be exhausting
Yeah.
for you in trying to just figure out exactly who you are, right?
Yeah, no, I feel like like even like late at night, I'll just stare at my desktop. Like my desktop is like blank. There's nothing on it. It's just a black background, right? And you'll just sit there. Even when I'm like in virtual reality, just looking at like the virtual freaking sky or whatever. It's like I just think about it a lot. Like just question it. I mean, there's gonna be people that will understand you, and there's gonna be people that just flat out are ignorant. Entirely at the end of the day, it's like it's how you want to perceive yourself as. It's your own thoughts. It's not anyone else's thoughts when you enter that sort of phase in your life.
Did you ever receive any pushback from like family members? You mentioned it to you said you mentioned this to your dad. You being non-binary and then trans and then going back and forth and that kind of stuff. Was there any pushback, negative pushback?
Not
When
at all.
no,
Not at all. Honestly, there's a pushback. I think they just respected it. Like they just flat out respected it. My sister already knew beforehand. She was like well aware of it, and she just respected it. Everybody that I talk to just respects it. Even my cousins and stuff. Like everybody knows. I feel like my older relatives just don't. I just don't let them know because I feel like they'll question it really hard. But I know I've never had any pushovers. Everyone's pretty chill about it, and I'm kind of glad it's like that. Like I get the respect that I want. I get the respect I want, and people aren't like weird over it.
oh yeah, of course. That's good. That's very good because unfortunately, I've talked to people and they say like don't really their loved ones still don't really kind of accept or haven't really accepted them being non-binary or transgender.
Yeah.
It's a rough thing, but you know for you, I'm glad it happened in that case, and it's a I would say it's a dub for you, Risora, and that kind of stuff. Um, Gotta ask a few more questions before I wrap it up. Well, this question, now that I look at it from my list of topics to cover, I should have just basically asked this at the start. Why are you called Risora in the first place?
I went by external at one point. I didn't like the name because I mean it was my name on Roblox. I just wanted to start over because I was done with Roblox and I didn't want whatever I was playing on Roblox to carry over. I mean, all I did was play like all the shooter games on that game, and I don't know. The name Risorah kind of sticked out, and funny enough, it's also the name of the name is actually taken from a good friend of mine on Roblox who eventually in 2022 like reached out and was aware that I carried their mantle over to Valorant, and they kind of pretty much respected the fact that they were happy about it. They're kind of glad that their name is like out there as like in like on someone else's like shoes, and they're just I don't know, they were happy about it. And I'm kind of glad that I've taken on like a different name and that it's not, you know, it's something that people can remember. And I mean, I'm glad that people are going to remember it.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's something that, of course, will carry with you, well into the future. And um, I've already asked you about, your favorite moments in your career, but what do you feel is your goal be it only in Game Changers or just in esports in general? Because if I remember correctly, you've also worked in events, I think as like someone behind the scenes, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done some stuff. I've done like a costume for Knights back in August for Knights Gauntlet in 2022. And then I got the opportunity to work at DreamHack San Diego and I got to try, interestingly enough, being a TA for that Brawlhalla was pretty cool. I was kind of glad to meet some people there. The ability to co-stream and like being able to be a tournament admin at an actual event, I think it's pretty cool. I want to do it more, funny enough, since I'm not competing. Like if if anyone needs like someone to help, or like I'm willing to just like help out. I just want to help out with events. I feel like it'd be fun. Like I've been wanting to do it for some time now.
I think those gigs you did like during your band, right?
Yeah, during my ban and post man.
Okay, but the majority was during your band, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. And okay, now getting to the main question that I was going to ask before we kind of went off topic. Um, what do you feel is your overall goal? Do you feel your goal is like saying, let's say, qualifying for NA main event for Game Changers, or maybe qualifying for like GC champions later on this year, or maybe make another a banger video that kind of gets you another band or something like that, or maybe like do another sequel, Electric Boogaloo type of shit.
I never posted the video, but there's a 2-hour video that I never brought up on the internet. I just chose not to. I feel like if I had to do an electric boogaloo, I would. That would be on the bucket list. I think the main thing would be if I come back to competing in GC or anything in general, it would just to make main event. It should never be like a one way goal or a one way road goal. You should always have multiple goals. So for me, at least, just keep competing in like a new game, in a new environment, in a new like start for me. Now that I'm leaving Valorant, uh, just compete at the highest level, qualify for LAN, uh, prove my name and prove my name like as always. And if I do come back to GC or Valorant, to do the same thing. And I feel like eventually that time would come, just not now.
So you mentioned this various times during the conversation, stepping away from GC. Then I guess you're stepping away from Valorant as a whole.
I'm not gonna be gone completely. Like I said, I still play the game. Like people need like someone, I guess, that's reliable and that you know. And if my name is thrown into that pot, then I'll always be around. For now, at least, I mean, I'm just still here. I just play the game. It's still fun. I mean, I do get a bit of brain rot playing ranked, but I mean, it's fun. As long as I keep like my consistencies, and I'm having fun.
And of course, that's the name of the game, just having fun. And of course, having fun, that is the name of the game. I just try to
Yeah.
save myself from that voice crack, and no
Hmm.
worries there. But yeah, it kind of wraps up all of my questions for this conversation. Risorah, thank you so much for taking the time and just talking to me about your life, your career, how you look back on the infamous ban and stuff of that nature. One more question, a simple one. Got any final words to share? Any final acknowledgments that you want to give to anyone out there in the world?
Uh, I just wanted to say honestly to anybody that watches this or anyone that I've kept up with since 2020, like, or even before Valorant, like, you guys, like, everybody, like, just everybody, everything that I've done and everyone I've met, Like everybody that I've met, everyone means the world to me. I mean, you can't let events or time or moments in your life like take over. You got to always remember the people that led you or that like you've met along the way. And shout out Ramen Lumber or Samantha. Honestly, I'm kind of glad that I met her. Shout out to like this group I've been keeping up with called I can't say it. Well, okay, it's a very inappropriate name, but I mean shout out to Keo, CZ, uh Ash, Iridescent. Shout out to No Thoughts Val. I think they'll find new players. I'm wishing the success for like I said, everybody that I've competed alongside or competed against. Uh, I'm just forever grateful for everything that I've done in Valorant the past 4 years, and I'm looking forward to what just comes into the future for everyone else and myself. It's pretty much all I could say. And buy the Send bundle.